It may be a mad world out there, but don't worry, we all go a little mad sometimes. That's right, I went there. Welcome to A World of Books with your host, author Anthony Avina. Hello there, everyone, and welcome to episode 5 of A World of Books with your host, author Anthony Avina. How's everyone doing today? Sorry that it's been a couple weeks since I last uploaded. It's been some personal developments in my own life that I had to take priority. But we are back this week and better than ever and ready to get back to what we all love, reading and writing. If you're listening to this podcast, it's because you share the same passion for reading as I do. Or perhaps it's because you, like also myself, you enjoy creating stories, you enjoy writing, whether they be taking a trip down memory lane and writing about our own lives, or perhaps creating a whole new fantasy world where dragons and trolls commune with one another. Who knows? It could be anything and everything in between. That's the beauty of writing, isn't it? One of the most prolific writing events over the last, maybe decade or so, has to be NaNoWriMo. If you're an author or a writer of any kind, you most likely have heard this thrown around once or twice. NaNoWriMo. NaNoWriMo stands for National Novel Writing Month. And the goal of this event, always taking place in November, is to write one novel or one writing project that is at least 50,000 words or more. So the goal is to get to 50,000 words. And some people complete this better than others. But NaNoWriMo is definitely, it has definitely become an event. It has become an organization, a nonprofit. There are events held throughout the year just to plan for this event. But a lot of authors take the challenge upon themselves to try and complete a brand new project, or perhaps to work on an already existing project, and get to that precious 50,000 mark. For others, it's just a nice excuse to sit at the desk to, put out the stresses of everyday life out of your mind and to focus on that precious lifeline that we all hold dear, which is writing. So today, I thought it would kind of be fun to step behind the computer or the laptop or the notepad, whatever you write with, show you a little bit of an inner glimpse of what authors can or could be doing to improve their NaNoWriMo experience, especially in this 2021 when the pandemic is still in full swing. Everyone is trying to experience things while dealing with this pandemic, while dealing with isolation and quarantine and, the fears that have stirred up within us all over the last few years. It's been kind of a harrowing experience. And that could also fuel a lot of the writing process. So I'm going to take you through just a short little list that I wrote that I think can help anyone taking on NaNoWriMo. I know I am taking NaNoWriMo on this year. I'll get a little bit into what my project's about, but I don't want that to be the focus of the episode. My focus is always to bring entertainment and enjoyment and information to you guys about the reading and writing process. That's what A World of Books is all about. So, with that in mind, here are my top 5 tips for authors during NaNoWriMo 2021. Now, if you guys hear some other noises in the background, it decided to start raining as I'm recording this podcast, so welcome to live recording. So, I am going to be talking about NaNoWriMo 2021. I want to start this off with a very simple tip, something that every author definitely should employ. There's a lot of wiggle room on the author writing process about what works for some people, what works for others. There is no exact science to it, but there is one thing that we could all do, and that is step 1. Take a deep breath with me. Take a deep breath. And exhale. See? Take a deep breath is an all-encompassing thought. It means center ourselves. Let's put out the negativity that comes at us from every angle in our daily lives. Let's take that away, take that out of the equation. Let's just take a deep breath and feel the breath coursing through our bodies. Let the stresses melt away as we exhale. Because there's going to be a lot of work ahead of us this month. There's going to be a lot going on. I swear I'm not trying to turn this into some sort of ASMR video or podcast. But taking a deep breath, trying to get into that Zen frame of mind before you delve into this is a super important step, and I highly recommend it for everyone. Because I know that there have definitely been a lot of times I've tried jumping headfirst into a project only to be taken out of the concept and the story altogether because I didn't take the time to de-stress about things that were going on in my own life before this. Step 2. Now this is where we're going to start getting into those kind of things where this could really just depend on the author or the writer. One of the things that often gets brought up when NaNoWriMo comes into play is the concept of a pantser versus a plotter. So my step 2 is to map out the basics. So this is where things come into play with the pantser versus plotter, frame of mind. A pantser is someone who literally flies by the seat of their pants, who decides to take NaNoWriMo on and just jump headfirst into a story. No notes, no outline, no serious overthinking or being overly critical of what direction you're to take your story. You just get out a notepad or a computer, open up a Word document, and you just start typing. And you see where things take you. That's what pantser mentalities are all about. And then there are plotters. Plotters are definitely the very detail-oriented mindsets that come into play when writing. These are the ways of writing in which an author or a writer will sit there and outline everything from the characters, each and every character, their own personality traits, their look, their roles in the story, whether they're integral or not to the climax of the narrative, and then they move from that to the setting. They outline what each chapter is going to entail, what kind of basic beats each chapter you want to lay down so that the story flows smoothly, what important background information you want to include in the narrative. All of these things get mapped out in a plotter's mindset. Me personally, I'm kind of a mixture of the two. I do like to write out outlines, not detailed outlines, but just basic outlines of what kind of direction I want each chapter to take. What characters need to have their time in the limelight in that particular chapter. What kind of backstory do I want to approach? But I don't let myself get too detailed because, like a pantser, I want to see where the story takes itself. I want to see the story evolve and grow. I want to be writing and all of a sudden have a stroke of genius pop into my head and go, oh, you know what would be a really good idea? What if this character suddenly did this? And let the story take off from there. Maybe it changes the entire narrative you had already started writing on its head. Now things are starting to either make sense, or maybe you're going to shock your readers by taking the story in a whole other direction than you intended. Maybe the quirky love story between two starstruck teens suddenly turns into a psychological thriller when one of the kids is not who they seem to be. See what I'm saying? there's so much wiggle room and so much thought process that goes into the camps of either being a pantser or a plotter. But I've always thought that there is a benefit to seeing from both sides of a viewpoint. And sometimes, if you get lucky enough, when you do that, you'll see that there are benefits to both. Sadly, it doesn't apply to everything in life. And we're not going to get very philosophical or political on here, so don't worry. But in this instance, I think seeing the point of view from both sides really will help you. And again, everyone's different, like I said, so maybe you're a pantser, maybe you're a plotter, and you don't feel comfortable being the other in the other direction. That's totally fine. But me, I am both a pantser and a plotter. Step number 3, make a schedule. Now, this will definitely play more into the plotter mindset, but this could be beneficial for a pantser too. Making a schedule is not necessarily about writing out a specific outline for each chapter. Making a schedule is making sure that you set aside time each and every day to write and meet your quota. You have 50,000 words to write in the span of an entire month. November will fly by super fast. We're already on November 18th. Can you guys believe that? November 18th. And a lot could happen in that time. So make sure that you take the time to write out a schedule. Even if you're listening to this podcast, we're already in the 18th as I'm recording this. It'll be the 19th when I put this up. So 19 days have already passed. Guess what? There's still several days ahead of us to finish this project. Map out your schedule. See what the rest of the month it has in store for you. We know Thanksgiving is coming for the American holiday season. We know that Christmas is going to be approaching next month, so there's a lot to plan around. But if we make a schedule and we stick to that schedule, we could hit that 50,000 mark before we know it. Number 4 is definitely more of a personal preference for me, because not everyone is as inspired by music as I am. But I love writing to music. I love it so much. Music is so moving, so inspiring. And I have a lot of different genres that I enjoy. My first love and my top genre of all time will always be rock. I am a huge fan of rock and roll. I love classic rock. I love hard rock, punk rock, emo rock, even some metal. I really thoroughly enjoy it. One of my favorite bands this year, I won't say of all time because I have a lot of favorite bands, but a band that I would highly recommend you guys listening to is actually Halocene. I discovered them this year. They've been around for a long time, but I just personally discovered them this year. And they're incredible. They actually do live concerts on their Twitch channel 3 times a week, and they're just incredible. They have a great chemistry, fun to watch, and their music is incredible. Everything, from the amazing guitar work to the arrangement of everything. The drummer is just intense and awesome, and the lead singer, she's got an incredible voice. And I swear this podcast is not going to turn into a Halocene praise episode, but that's the point. Music really does have an impact on me, and I think has an impact on a lot of writers out there, and can be such a fuel for creativity. Halocene does that for me. I also started listening to classic Irish, Scottish, and English folklore, or folk songs. Not folklore, but some are folklore. But folk music from like centuries ago. I love that kind of music. It's very inspiring. It gets me into a historical fantasy mindset, which plays into some of the elements that I am hoping to incorporate in my current NaNoWriMo project. But making a playlist can be so crucial. So the goal here is to find music that A, entertains and inspires you, but B, also plays into the narrative that you're trying to write. Maybe you're writing a horror thriller set against the backdrop of a electronica dance festival. Maybe you get some electronica music in there. Or perhaps you're writing an epic fantasy and you want some folk songs in there. Writing a playlist that will put you both into a relaxed mindset and into the mindset of the narrative you're trying to write would be so beneficial to you. So if music inspires you, and again, this is different for everyone, but if music inspires you, make a playlist. I use Spotify personally, but use whatever you have available. Make a playlist and put it on whenever you're ready to start writing. It really will help you, I promise. Finally, number 5. This is probably one of the simplest steps, and again, personal to everyone, but keep some refreshments and nourishment nearby. You know, when you're sitting at your desk for 2-3 hours at a time, you know, and you can easily get lost into what you're writing and not realize that much time has gone by. It's important to have some sort of refreshment or snack or nourishment of some kind nearby. Right now I'm drinking a lemon lime sparkling water as we speak. See? Keeps me refreshed, keeps me from getting too lost in the narrative, and gives me a moment to pause and to think about what I'm doing when I'm writing. Did I mean to add that sentence there? Did I mean to completely disregard a character that I had intended to write for? You know, taking that break to do that, and also having nourishment. You know, having some fresh fruit or, you know, some sort of, you know, healthy snack nearby that will keep you energized and awake. You know, sometimes writing can get tedious, and we don't want to be taken out of that creative fuel, you know, or that creative mindset at the time. So keep some refreshments nearby. You won't regret it. Hey readers, today's podcast is sponsored by author J.J. Angelus's The Awakening, the second book in his Warriors of Potentia YA sci-fi and fantasy horror series. If you enjoy stories that blend the horror of John Carpenter's The Thing with the wonder and sci-fi action of Stranger Things, then this book is for you. It follows 2 young boys who must go on an adventure to find artifacts that will help them gain power to defeat an ancient alien virus that is growing and evolving inside of a major corporation. If you haven't read my review yet, please do so now and go pick up your copy on Amazon today. Now, you guys didn't think that was the end of the episode, did you? Now, we have a bonus here. First and foremost, to the end of that list I gave you of tips, let's have a bonus little tip there. Let's call it tip number 6. Don't let the naysayers win. There's a lot of people in an author's life or a writer's life who will disregard their goals in life. That will tell them that, you know, writing is not really a pursuit that you should go on. And, they're going to be everywhere. They'll say that a lot. Don't let them win. Don't let them get you to give up your dream of writing. This month is especially a good month to put the naysayers down and to go into your love of writing with everything you got. Just don't give up, okay? Now, during NaNoWriMo, there are a lot of tools in our modern society that could be really beneficial to a writer. There's social media networks geared specifically towards writers where they can share snippets of their writing, can get critiques, can get new fans for their writing. There's writing apps that either can help you to organize your actual writing or could be a great source of gaining the little details that you may not be able to come up with in a moment's notice. So I'm going to share with you my top 5 apps that I currently have I have an iOS, so this will be for iOS users. These are the apps that I use during NaNoWriMo constantly. Now, because this is an iOS app haul, whatever you want to call it, the first app that I will talk about is Pages. Pages is my go-to writing app whenever I start a project. You can convert your project into any format you want, whether it be a MOBI or PDF or EPUB, or maybe a text file. You never know. Whatever makes it easier for you to write. Pages does that for you. You can add media to the project if you need to. There's a lot of good options where you can change the font to whatever you want. I'm currently working on my project in there right now. Actually, I just pulled it up, so I can't tell you everything about it yet, but it's coming along really well. But yeah. Now, the second app that I have for you is called Save the Cat. I actually got turned onto this writing tool fairly recently. Not, I want to say it's been just in the last month, but I have started using it in the past year. I've actually written several reviews on books that this company and this tool has put out. It's called Save the Cat. It was written by Blake Snyder. Mostly used for screenwriters when it first came to mind. Now, with Save the Cat, what's really interesting about this is that it really helps you, if you're a plotter, to organize your story. So you can divide your story up into scenes. So you can come up, like if you're a script writer, for instance, you'd come up with an opening image, a log line, and then make notes of what characters are in this scene, locations, that kind of thing. But this actually works for novels as well. It's really easy and to use, and it's really great for those who are learning to hone their craft, to get into the plotter mindset, to really hone in. Okay, what characters are in this chapter? Where are they? Where is the chapter taking place? What are the important things to remember about this chapter in particular? Is there a setup for anything further on in the story within this chapter, or is it kind of a throwaway chapter in which, you're just kind of moving the story along, in other words? That kind of thing. This app is really helpful for that. Now, a social media app that is really great for writers is Wattpad. I use Wattpad all the time. Wattpad, to me, is not only a great way to get your writing out there without having to do a major publication kind of thing. It's a great way to get feedback on stories. I've published little snippets and previews of my books before on there and gotten great feedback on it. I've actually written entire novels on there, and you actually can publish them chapter by chapter. Maybe that's how you want to go about NaNoWriMo. You publish each section a day until you have 50 sections and write, 1,000 words each section. That could be a great way to set that up, actually. And I think I've done that before, like 4 years ago. But it's a great way to organize yourself, and it's a great way to get feedback on your progress as you're writing. It's a social element that many writers haven't had over the years, and it's a great way to get encouragement too from the community, because you not only have readers there, but a lot of writers as well who will check out your work and encourage you to keep going. I put this on here because I use Medium all the time. Medium is a great article writing site. It's a great way to get inspired. There's actually a lot of tips for writers on there as well. A lot of articles are written for writers who need some inspiration. I actually wrote an article a few months ago on the multiverse aspect of fiction writing. There's a whole slew of narratives now taking on the whole multiverse theory. And I won't get into all of that because that's a whole can of worms that could be opened up here. But Medium has a lot of articles that are great for writers to give tips and tricks and to help them grow. their craft, to hone in on it. Finally, the fifth app that I use is called Lists for Writers. This is a really simple app that can be really helpful for very detailed oriented aspects of your writing. Basically, Lists for Writers has entire lists of things from first and last names, countries, languages, phobias, relationships, everything you can imagine, even fantasy elements like different cryptids and mythological creatures. This app has it all, and it lists it in a very linear way to where you can find this information quite easily and use it in your writing. Let's say you're in the middle of writing a story and you need a last name for this side character who just came up. And you're never going to use this character again. It's just to move the story along. Pull the app out, find your last name, scroll until you find the name that kind of fits with the character that you're writing in the moment. Boom, you're done. And it's a lot easier than going on a website or doing a Google search for some sort of like name generator or something like that. This way you're getting the information but still putting the work in, and you feel a lot more accomplished in what you did. And I enjoyed that. So for me, Lists for Writers is a must-have app if you're an iOS user during NaNoWriMo. Well, I think that's going to do it for me, guys. Now, I promised that I'd talk a little bit about my project. And again, I don't want the whole episode to be about this, so I'm just going to touch on it briefly. But because this episode is about NaNoWriMo, I think I should establish myself as a NaNoWriMo participant so you guys can understand why these tips are so important and these apps. So, I decided this year my NaNoWriMo project was going to be about finishing the novella series that I began like a year and a half, 2 years ago. It's actually a prequel series to this really, really huge multi-book, multi-series kind of vision I have. The main series is called Nightmare Wars, and it's kind of a paranormal, post-apocalyptic style paranormal thriller, and focuses on resistance fighters for humanity who are facing extinction because the supernatural creatures of the world that have hidden in the shadows and let humans think that they are nothing more than myths and legends for centuries have had enough with being hunted and feared and decide to take their rightful place as the top of the food chain. But that's such a simplification of it because there's so much more to it. There are good people, good creatures within the paranormal community who don't want to see this unfold and who have been fighting a secret war against this evil creature, the father of all supernatural creatures, for centuries. And that's where my prequel series comes in. It's called the Nightmare Academy series, and it's about a 100-year-old vampire who hold on one second. Sorry about that. That's what happens when you're recording live and you get a phone call. This story is about a 100-year-old vampire who she was churned when she was just an 18-year-old teenage girl. And she comes to the Nightmare Academy, which is an elite, exclusive, almost shadowy, secret academy for supernatural creatures who all they know is that they're being trained for something. They're being taught to become perfect soldiers for something. Little do they know that it's for this mysterious villain and his nightmare war that is coming in the future. The main character, she goes into this academy as an undercover agent for the resistance and is keen on finding answers to what this academy is all about. While she's there, not only does she have to contend with growing feelings for the all-powerful warlock who helped build the school, but another younger vampire as well. And she finds out that the vampire who murdered her one love almost 50 years ago is now the dean of the school. So she has a lot of moving parts, a lot of moving elements in it. She has to deal with the supernatural cliques in the school, which is really beneath her because she's a warrior at heart and has no time for, these social circle things. But then she also has to deal with threats to her cover, threats to the mission, and has to work her way into the inner circle of the school to find the true nature of what the Nightmare Academy is all about. So I've already written the novellas 1 and 2, and I'm taking NaNoWriMo to write the third novella. The third novella I'm hoping to publish at the end of the year. And then I would like to publish all 3 into one first book in this series. I'm hoping to write a total of 9 novellas, 3 major novels for this prequel series. And then I'm hoping that the characters will be showing up in other Nightmare War related books, one-offs, short stories, all that fun stuff. So that is the plot of my current 2021 NaNoWriMo project. And if you guys want to follow me or become one of my buddies on the NaNoWriMo website, nanowrimo.org, my name is author Anthony Avina there. I'll leave a link below to my page. Guys, feel free to add me, hit me up, let me know what your guys are working on. And I hope that this episode helped you a little bit. If you're in the middle of NaNoWriMo and just a little lost or feeling like you need some help, I hope this helps a little bit. Again, I'm not claiming to be the world's foremost expert on NaNoWriMo, but I know these are the tips that have helped me in the past and are helping me this year. So I hope they'll help you as well. Thank you for tuning in. Next week's episode 6, I'm planning to be all about fantasy. I'm going to do 4 book reviews set within the fantasy genre because I feel like fantasy is a very fall-oriented genre. And I'm looking forward to sharing some of my favorite fantasy reads of the last few months. And let me know what fantasy series you like to read during the fall. Is there a long-standing series that you enjoy, or is there a brand new fantasy book that just came out that you think I should check out as well? Leave your comments below. And also let me know, are you participating in NaNoWriMo this year? Or have you participated in recent years? Let me know. All right, guys. Have a good one. Stay safe. Stay healthy. And, I'll see you next time in a world of books. You've been listening to A World of Books with your host, author Anthony Avina. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. If you liked it, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts especially, but wherever you can, and share the podcast with anyone you feel would enjoy it. If you have any suggestions for books we should feature on the podcast, or maybe a topic that you'd like to hear me discuss, please feel free to let me know, and make sure you follow me on all my social media pages so you can get the latest info on this amazing new podcast. I hope you guys enjoy and have a great week.